Hello, welcome back to Brick System Brothers. Small PAB cup, this time from Natik, Massachusetts, and we're doing another video in the PAB Crawl. So the small cup, kind of the standard I went for on the trip, especially when it comes to a lot of these smaller pieces that I'm getting. You really don't need as much volume even when you're getting a lot in terms of quantity. So the smaller piece is working out well there. Just skimming through here, I've got 6, 8, 10, maybe 11 different part types, 11 different lots. Did I get the spider on the list? Maybe 12. I did throw in a few of those spiders on top here, but the majority, obviously, these 1x1 little rounded, I call them like a finishing brick or a finishing bow, something like that. A couple of the orange ones as well that go to that peak. So the orange here is not a cheese slope. It's the more recent piece that's been introduced. This was a cup I bought pretty early on in the trip, and so some of the pieces in here were also on the walls that I visited later during my road trip, but at this point I had already purchased those pieces, and so I didn't need to get more. Therefore I selected other pieces to fill. And maybe one or two stores that I went to had similar pieces on the walls, but at that point, towards the end of the trip, I had already picked up quite a variety of pieces, and didn't really see anything on the wall that I could fill, even a small cup that I really wanted to add in. So at that point, I just didn't buy the small cup, but here early on in the trip, there were still quite a few pieces I was able to grab. So get some counts and get a breakdown going. The store happened to have the 4x4 round brick, so I used that as kind of a core, and it was actually able to fill up into the cap of the small cup and kind of maximize that part volume. But this was a larger piece. I think just getting these to fill that center line pretty efficiently, actually. I'm stacking several of those here up into that cap, so I've made use of that. And now we can see down into the core some of these other pieces I got. A couple of these 4x4 quarter rounds, some inverted and not inverted baby bows, a little Azure 1x1 slopes, inverted white 1x1, and then those lower ones that I was looking at earlier, but I wanted to show the cap or the core in there. $9.55 for the cup purchase, and turned out to be 568 total pieces. This actually gets really close to our Bridgewater, underneath 2 cents a piece here. We're at 1.68, so not quite beating the Bridgewater value record, but pretty close, and a lot of it comes down to bulking up on these smaller pieces. So the little 1x1 finishing bows are going to fit all in one of my small drawers, which is really nice, and that'll go up on the wall with my PAB overflow. These guys, at the moment, these are kind of distributed. There's a few on my main wall. There's a few in Mindstorm's box down in the bottom, because I hardly ever build with these. Still not really sure why I got them at the PAB wall, but I figured I'd have enough of these and wouldn't hurt to get some new copies in black. You know, it could be like a locomotive boiler if all else fails. So what were there, like 8 of those, I think, and some of the other high quantity ones. That orange peak, I put the rest away already, but the orange peak, there were 86 of those, 30 inverted white slopes, and the rest were actually kind of lower quantity part counts, because again, majority of that cup volume taking up by the finishing slope. One thing that I did find that I didn't notice as I was picking on these yellow jumper plates, bring this into focus, and we can actually see there's 2 distinct styles of jumper plates, and here we have 2 of the 3. The current style of jumper plate actually doesn't have the small round peg. It has a stud holder underneath. But at the Pick-a-Brick wall, they had the old style, but they had 2 different versions of the old style. And the lower one here does not have a groove around the edge, and this was actually last used in 2014, according to Rebrickable. So that is some serious overstocking issues I'm not sure if Lego was just rummaging around their warehouse and came across a box of these and said, we got to get rid of these, let's just send them to the PAB wall and hope someone buys them. But what's interesting is they were mixed in, as far as I can tell, completely mixed in with the, again, not the current version of this piece, of this jumper, but the more recent one as compared to this. So within the last couple years, they changed over from this style. So the current style has what's called a stud holder, and this allows it to be centered up on a 1x instead of getting blocked by the peg. But just for comparison's sake, this was not on the PAB wall. The pieces I got on the PAB wall were a mix of these two. And that's interesting just to see the older version that hasn't actually been in a set for 6 years, 5 years now, and a slightly more current version, but still not the one that's currently going into released Lego sets. So, not sure. Again, the PAB wall possibly being a dumping ground for surplus stock in the Lego warehouses. That may or may not be confirmed. I haven't necessarily found any sources to suggest that's what's going on, but I wouldn't be surprised. And I wouldn't be surprised to find, you know, sources out there that can confirm that, whether that be Lego store employees or someone that worked at Lego bringing that information back. Just reporting here on what I found specifically at the Natik Massachusetts Mall Lego store. So pretty good value for this haul. Really nice to get these 1x1 finishing pieces. I have a bunch in my bookstore modular in light bluish gray. Now that I have a bunch of white ones, I will probably be able to incorporate them in a similar manner as to how they're used on the bookstore for that architectural detailing. That's kind of the main reason I picked up so many of these. That's it for today, guys. PAB Crawl is going to continue with some more of these small and a couple large pick and build cups from these Lego stores. But that's coming up later, so we'll see you there on Brick System Brothers.